Hello everyone, I hope you are having a good evening. I'm Akshita, your host for the evening. On behalf of my team, I officially welcome you all to GSoC 101, an event brought to you by Computer Engineering Students Association VIT. GSoC is one of the most famous summer of code programs to showcase the developer side of you and prove your actual practical knowledge in contributing to real life projects. It is a program to promote open source development. It is organized by Google every summer for the last decade. Students contribute to open source repositories and get paid by Google in return. Well, it's a great way to spend summer vacation. And you know what? The acceptance rate for GSoC is around 20 to 25%. So you can see why the competition is intense and gets more intense with every passing year. And so to share some amazing tips and tricks along with his journey with GSoC and help us all to prepare well with advance, we have with us today Yash Pandey. He is a pre-final year undergraduate student at IIIT Ranchi. He has been a part of Google Summer of Code last year, that is 2021, and worked with Casbin to provide advanced authorization solutions in C++. He is currently working as a software engineering intern at Mobile Premier League and maintaining Casbin at the same time. Hello Yash, it's great to have you with us today. So without wasting any more time, let's all gear up for this awaited session about GSoC. I would like to hand over the session to you, Yash. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Akshita. It was a really flattering introduction of me. I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if it is visible or not.
Yes, sure. Yes, your screen is visible. Yes, yes.
All right. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
All right. So, good evening, everyone. This is Yash. I'm a mentor, educator, and a dev influencer. I have thousands of followers on LinkedIn, and today I'll be giving you tips and tricks you can use to crack GSoC 2022. So, without any further ado, let's begin. So, here's a glimpse into what I'll be discussing today, the perfect roadmap you need to follow for GSoC 2022. How just a bunch of coding can fill up your bank accounts with a lot of money, all while being a student. How cracking GSoC can get you into Google. And how I got multiple FANG opportunities just by cracking GSoC. Exciting, right? Let's begin. Something's off, right? Maybe you saw it coming. This is not what I'll be presenting today. But you might have heard similar stories and claims from various influencers on all the social media platforms. It is termed as sensationalism. Get a job at Google, any degree, GSoC roadmap, earn 2 lakhs in 2 months, how to crack GSoC in first year, and whatnot. I mean, the list keeps on going. It's hard to keep going your way when you see these kinds of videos. These creators are often remarkable engineers who are trying to help others take their own path. But preparing for open source projects and programs like Google Summer of Code is something that should remain to the enthusiastic individuals, right? If following roadmaps, if everyone follows roadmap, how will there be different results for each individual, right? Everyone is the same and everyone is on a plain level ground. So there is no difference. You are incentivized with money and fame instead of the actual value it would add to your knowledge. More often than not, people who get selected in GSoC like this way won't even contribute a single line of code after Google Summer of Code ends. This defeats the entire purpose of why Google made Google Summer of Code, right? And here's a quotation I think is apt for the situation. You are the choices you make. If others take decisions for you, you're nobody. You're nobody. With that out of the way, let's do this all over again. Good evening to all the wonderful people present in this meeting. I am Yash Pandey and I am an open source software developer and I love to learn about large code bases and how things work behind the curtains. I'd like to thank Computer Engineering Student Association VIT team for taking a collaborative initiative to make students aware about open source software and for a very flattering introduction of me. I'll be talking about my journey through open source software development, of which Google Summer of Code is just a small part, but it's close to my heart. So let's have a look at the things we'll be discussing today. Seriously, what is open source software? How do people make career out of it? And why should you and I care about open source software? What is Google Summer of Code? Why did Google make such a program in the first place? And who is it for? And last, I'll be sharing my journey through open source. And this will be followed by a Q&A session, so stay tuned for that. Let's begin. So what does open source actually mean? You have heard about open source in a lot of YouTube videos and in through LinkedIn, and you have got an idea of what open source is. But what exactly it is, it's really simple, and I'm going to explain it in just one slide. So every software you are using right now, even the software you are using right now, the MS Teams, has something that is known as its source code. So this source code is generally written in a higher level programming language and is then converted to binaries and then distributed to all the users or the clients of the software. It's usually written in the high level language, but let's say you want to change the behavior of teams. Let's say you want a new theme, I guess a red theme or any theme like that, and you want to change the internal working structure of MS Teams, but you just have the binaries. You cannot, modify the behavior of that product just by, going into the binary and changing it by hand. It will be really difficult and it's really infeasible process. It can be done theoretically, but it's really infeasible. So these are closed source software, right? So you don't have the access to its source code. Yes, MS Teams does have its source code somewhere lying around in Microsoft server, but I don't think you have an access to it if you are not a Microsoft employee. So you cannot access the source code. They are closed source software. That is the more conventional software. And open source software is the one which has its source code accessible to everyone on the internet and of course in the world, right? Everyone can access this source code without paying any premium or without being an employee to a specific company. They can just access the source code anywhere. They can clone it on their own machine and they can do whatever they want. This is somewhat regulated by open source licenses like MIT license, general public license, and many other software like GNU Compiler Collection, that is GCC, Homebrew, Chocolatey, VLC Media Player, Firefox, and many other software are open source, meaning you can get the source code from the internet or any distributor and do whatever you want to do with the code. Just by cloning it, you own the code. Unless and until you are abiding by the license, it's perfectly fine. You can do whatever you want with the code. Then you might be wondering, if we give such leeway to all the participants in the open source community, then people have various ways of tackling various problems. And so there are a plethora of software to tackle the same issue. And there are various options in open source. So open source is vast. How vast, you might ask? Well, there are hundreds of projects building and maintaining thousands of projects. I'm kidding. There's even more. There are hundreds of thousands of organizations building and maintaining millions of projects all day long. Almost all the software we use right now, be it Netflix, Amazon, Notion, Spotify, Chrome, Gmail, anything that you might think of, is probably made up of a lot of open source code. And not just a little bit. It's 90% of the entire code base of the software. It's open source, right? It's lying somewhere on the internet, but it is then curated and compiled in a structural manner by the software, by the company who is making the software, and then they release the binary and then you use the product. So that is how these things are done. So they are relying on open source software so much, these companies. You might be wondering, where's the money, right? You are basically giving all your source code away to all the people and they can do whatever they want. So how do we make money? How does a developer who is working on these projects makes money? How can he make his bills pay? So I mean, what incentive do people have to work for open source project? Well, this brings me to why and how companies invest into open source software and the community around it. And of course, you guessed it right. Here's where programs like Google Summer of Code will come into picture. Let's take the case of the engineers working in Google, right? They are working on a plethora of problems which we deal right now. They might be working on Google Maps. They might be working on Gmail service. For this, they use a lot of open source software and tools. And one of the most famous tools they use a lot is called Homebrew. So Homebrew is a CLI based package manager, and it allows you to install, upgrade, and uninstall various packages and software on your system with just one command. The usage can be seen as something like this. You can see that with only one command, I am able to install GCC, that is brew install GCC, and it will execute a set of instructions, and then it will install GCC on my computer in no time with just one command. You can see the utility it provides, and without it, it would be really difficult. You can think of Homebrew as the apt package manager in Ubuntu. So that is the way, I mean, that is the case here. So Google heavily depends on the reliability of Homebrew. Imagine if the master, I mean, Homebrew is an open source project. So if someone commits a fraudulent code inside the master branch of Homebrew, it will create a whole lot of havoc in the open source community and even in the companies who are using it. So Google relies indirectly on Homebrew. But the people working on Homebrew, like the developer actually working on Homebrew, isn't employed by Google directly, but they are somewhat employed by Google. I mean, you can see the relation here. They are not employed by Google directly, but they are relying on these developers and the work of these developers on Homebrew. So this creates a void in the coincidence of interest between the two parties, that is Google and the developers. Google realized the importance of open source. And not just Google, a lot of companies did, like Microsoft, Facebook, which is now Meta, and a lot of companies did, and they did their measures to promote open source. They donate a lot of money to open source projects like Homebrew, and they provide mentorship programs and a lot more. So this brings me to Google Open Source. So Google Open Source is an organization, is a way of Google to promote open source in its organization as well and to the world as a whole. And it's not just Google doing this. It's Microsoft, Facebook, now Meta, Spotify, Netflix, Shopify, and a lot of big companies, big tech players coming into open source, and they are providing insight into what open source is. And this organization alone manages 2,500 active projects right now. And once Google open source, I mean, we will be talking about Google open source today. And there are many open source programs and many open source organizations as such. But Google open source, we'll be talking about that today because Google Summer of Code is a part of Google open source. So Google open source came up with a lot of programs to promote open source among various age groups. And the first one is Google Summer of Code, the Google Season of Docs, and Google Codin. Of course, you might have known that Google Codin has discontinued from 2019, I guess. So Google Summer of Code is a program where organizations apply and they provide a list of project ideas to the Google, and the Google employees scrutinizes all the company and selects a list of organization to take part in Google Summer of Code, right? So the organization might be applying right now for Google Summer of Code 2022 according to the timeline, and the Google employees actually have scrutinized all the organization, and they will be releasing the result in in the very next month. And later on, the students also apply to these projects. A student needs to find the project which aligns with his or her portfolio, and then they need to apply to the project. That is how Google open source, Google Summer of Code works. And similar case goes to Google Season of Docs. Now, if you have used any Google product, any open source Google product, you know that, for example, you might have used Flutter, you might have used TensorFlow, and a lot more. I mean, Kubernetes as well. So they are very much concerned and about documentation, and they provide a very high quality documentation for all their products. So Google Season of Docs provide a lot of support for all the students, and you can apply for Google Season of Docs once the application commences. I guess the application has commenced, so you can apply for Google Season of Docs. The main aim is to promote documentation for the organization. It is similar to Google Summer of Code but for documentation. And Google Codin was a really awesome and really interesting program for high schoolers, not for college students, so I'll be skipping it today. And anyways, it is discontinued right now. So you might have got an idea about what Google Summer of Code is, where it aligns, and what is the actual aim of Google Summer of Code. Now, I'll be talking about my journey through open source. So let's begin. August 2019, I got myself admitted into the Indian Institute of Information Technology, Ranchi, India, for the batch of 2019. And we were currently resided, for the entirety of first year, we were resided in the National Institute of Technology, Jamshedpur. And I had a wonderful time there. I was in the music team, football team, and I played badminton all night long. And I attended lectures and had a lot of fun in hostel. And I couldn't say in it in those words, but I'm overwhelmed with the memories I've had in my first year and couldn't be any better. My first year was awesome, and I didn't study at all. And I managed to get a CGPA of 8.5 by the end of, I guess, first semester. Cut to May 2020. Lockdown happened. I was stuck at home and I had nothing to do but to play on my mobile. I played PUBG and a lot of games. I felt saturated. I wanted to do something productive. And I was curious about games because I was playing PUBG, and I wanted to know how they work, right? I wanted to know how assets are being made and how the coordination matrix was, how the world matrix was laid down inside a graphics, and how so much of calculation can be taken place on just a very small mobile processor. So I was really into it. And then I found myself this channel. This is a gem channel. The Sherno. I'll be dropping the link to this channel. And he has provided a game engine series, and I picked up from there. And I knew a little bit of C++, 98 from 12th standard. So I went into it. I learned the modern practices that are laid down for modern C++ project. The Microsoft Visual Studio C++. So it was really awesome, and I got to learn about a lot of things that work behind the curtains for games. Obviously, I did not complete the project because I was just a freshman, and it was really overwhelming for me to complete that big of a project. But it started something. It got me to think that I really like this stuff, and I went on and on with it. And I also, tried on competitive programming. I went to 3-star, and I guess I was about to touch the 4-star marking. I don't care anyways. So I was about to get the 4-star, but I quit because I wasn't having fun exactly. So I made a Phoenix engine, which was inspired by the game engine of the Cherno, which is called Hazel. And I learned a lot about C++. The modern practices we do for C++. Cut to October 2020. I was well versed. Relatively well versed for my age group. I was well versed with C++ 11 and 17, a bit more in C++ 11 for Microsoft Visual C++. And I contributed to OpenColor.io. How I found OpenColor.io, I got to know about the project through 2020 GSoC projects. I was going through the GSoC 2020 list because GSoC 2020 has just ended. If you can think of the timeline, in October 2020, the GSoC has just ended. And I gave a look into every project. I gave a look into every project that had to concern with C++. And I looked at everything that was related to the project. And I found this project to be interesting and aligning with my portfolio somewhat. And so I started contributing to it in hopes that I'll be able to get into GSoC 2021 with this organization. And I contributed a lot. Even though I contributed a lot of code, you can see here it's 1700 lines of code. And it was a huge feature for me for that time. because I was just starting with my C++ career, and it was really intimidating for me. And I scratched my head all night long just to know what the function means and how to navigate through such a large code base. It was a very large code base, OpenColor IO. And the CMake structure of that project is really awesome, and it was laid down in very, very modern format, although it can be a bit better. But yeah, it was awesome, and it was really intimidating at the same time. So I wasn't able to merge my code into the code base, the large contribution that I made, but I learned a lot of things about C++. And there's just a small contribution in Flutter documentations as well. And yeah, I contributed a little bit of code. Yeah, a tutorial to Flutter dev. You can see in the, I will be sharing the link to the contributions. Cut to March 2021, and things had to take its pace, and I was ready to, see the org list for GSoC 2021. And to my disheartened soul, I found that the organization that I have been working hard is not in the organization list of GSoC 2021. I was shattered. I thought that I'll do it in the next year, I guess in 2022. But I digged on to the projects, well, I mean the organization list anyways. I found a lot of projects which were aligning with my portfolio, and I was very late. I mean, people start from like 6 months before GSoC starts, and I was very late. You can see the first message I did to Casbin organization, which is the one which Hi was being selected for in Google Summer of Code 2021. So this is my first message in Casbin community, and I always thought of having something constructive whenever I say. So I mean, there are hundreds of people introducing themselves in in such conversation. They are introducing that yes, I am from this institute, and I have done this course, and I want to contribute to Casbin. There is no information. There is no way for the mentor to continue the conversation. There is no way you can take anything out of it, right? You are just introducing yourself, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, here's my way. I thought that whenever I message something, it should be meaningful, it should be worth a conversation. And so I linked a pull request in my first message, and I told them to please review it and if it is relevant to the project or not. And I got to know a lot about CMake because it was just a infant project, and I got to learn about how to set up CMake. And through the experience I had with OpenColor IO, it's a really modern project with all the modern features of CMake being used for that project. And from that knowledge, I was able to implement it in in Casbin. So it was really awesome for me. And the thing that I got to know is that whenever you do something, even though you think that it won't be worth anything in the future, it will be. I mean, there might be some case, there might be some way that your hard work and your persistence might give you some fruits, right? So yeah, this is where I shined, and now I knew that this was my project, and I went on full throttle for this project, and I contributed to a lot. I contributed a lot to this project before GSoC starts. And cut to May 2021, I was selected for Google Summer of Code 2021 with Casbin, and I was working on Casbin CPP. And the key thing that I think that made my proposal stand out is the conversation I had with the mentors. So you can see in the screenshot, I haven't shown a lot of details in the screenshot, but you can see that I conversed with the mentor, and I told him that this is the project I want to work on. This is the thing that I am good at. This is the thing I'm not good at. And there's a lot of back and forth. I mean, there's a lot of exchange of information back and forth. And I sent him a draft proposal as soon as possible, as soon as the window started for application proposal application. So I started sending him draft proposal, and he was continuously trying to make it better, trying to make the proposal better. And with that, finally, I got a Google Summer of Code 2021. I got selected into the program. And immediately after that, in a few days, I was invited to a group, GSoC 2021 India, a WhatsApp group, and also a Discord server. And these are elite developers. These are next level developers. If we talk about the relative knowledge of the age group we are talking about, right? So for 18 to 20 or 22 years, they have done a lot of coding. They have been a lot of geeks there. And every day, even today, I see that someone is getting placed in somewhere in the company or in Germany or in GitLab or very huge organization. And these are elite developers, and you get to network with them. And this is the most important asset I think that GSoC has given me. And they are elite developers, and I can, talk with them and connect with them any way I want. Of course, I have the numbers, so I can contact them on WhatsApp or anywhere, and they can even contact me for referrals, and we often do that. And that's really how we grow. And even if GSoC ends, this is the thing that stays on, right? It still is a very active group, and a shout out to them, and they are really awesome people. So cut to August 2021. I, contributed a lot of code to the project. I mean, I had 80% code coverage in the entire project, and it's an active open source project right now. And I contributed 18,000 lines of handwritten, hand typed code into the project. And, you know, it was a lot of PRs and a lot of reviews. And I researched a lot of things day and night just to make sure that my work was correct, and the clients who were expecting the product to arrive and the features to arrive in the time. I think it was really critical for me to perform well and to not push fraudulent commit, as I have shown you in the previous slides, I guess, in the homebrew session. So yeah, I was really, really careful with that stuff. And of course, I got an appreciation from the owner of Casbin, you can see here. And it was a really, really, I felt a lot of achievement. I mean, I got a lot of love and support, and it was really great. I mean, working with them was really smooth, and they were all geeks. They were all good at things that they wanted to do, and they wanted to expand their product. And I think that you need to resonate with the team. If you are not resonating with your team, if you are not looking for what they actually want out of the project, you cannot see the big picture of the project, then I think that there might be certain things that um, is really crucial for employees or the developers to know about the company's direction, right? So, and of course, the mentor also happens to be a senior researcher at Microsoft. So it was really great for it's coming from him. So the kind words are coming from him. It was really great, and it felt really great for me. So I worked on CMake build system, the entire build system. I created the entire build system for the project, the Python bindings and the build system for that bindings, the testing system, including that of Python bindings testing, and the entire project's testing as well, CI/CD on GitHub Actions, and the documentation. So everything was covered by my contributions here. And you can see just a small glimpse of all the PRs that I have done. It's not all the PRs, it's around 38 PRs I have done, and I'm still actively contributing to the project. Cut to today. I have worked with a lot of organization, and along with Casbin, then I got, then I got an internship offer from Trell, and it's a lifestyle company, and I got to learn a lot about Python and Golang, and it was really awesome for me to work with such great individuals, and it was all a very constructive environment. And even in layer 5, I just skipped on layer 5. I used to contribute to layer 5, I guess, in January 2020, and then I left layer 5. But it's all right. I mean, people leave all the time in an open source project. There's no obligation for that. And House of Geeks is my own. I mean, my institute has House of Geeks. This is the technical society of my institute, and is the most active most active society of my institute. So here's what I have been doing. And the main important thing that I want you to take with my journey is that you need to stay connected. Coding, you can code a lot of things, you can make a lot of features, you can, contribute 20,000 to lakh line anyways. But it's nothing if you don't connect with people, because software are made for people. They are not made for anything except for people, either indirectly or directly. They are made for people, and you need to connect with the people and not the code, right? You need to connect with the mentors, and you need to connect with all your colleagues, all the people who are wanting to do the same. You might see that while taking on issues, taking on PRs, there might be several other individuals taking up the same issue, and they might be working on the same issue. You need to do something constructive. You need to say that here's what I think about the issue. And then a lot of people might put in their thoughts, and then we can curate a lot of a structured way to solve that problem. This is the way I think open source is working its best. So right now I am interning at MPL, and I'll be joining on 14th. So it has been great for me, and GSoC has given me a lot of opportunities, and it's not given me FANG opportunities. And I don't think I have done pretty bad anyways. So I think it's great. And yeah, that's what I am today. So before we move ahead, I have something to share with you. Akshata, can I share? I mean, do we have some chat or chat
Yes,
box or
yes.
anything?
Chat box is enough.
Mm, I'm not able to.
You're not able to see chat box.
Nope.
Just a second.
Yeah.
I guess you are external, that's why it is disabled. I can read out, like if someone asks anything.
No, it's all right. I'll drop in, and I think you can distribute it to all the participants, right? I'll
Yes.
drop in whatever I've written. I think it was just a message, and all the references that I have, the Sharno channel and a lot of reference material. I've curated a list of those material, and I just wanted to share it with everyone. It's all right. We'll do it after the event.
Okay,
So
okay.
let's move ahead. Yeah, I think my screen is still visible, right?
Yes, yes.
All right. So now we move on to questions. So if you have any questions related to Google Summer of Code, whatever I have said, anything that is related to open source, so you may start your questions. And I need to see that as well. Akshita, would you recite to me the questions?
Okay, just a minute.
Yeah.
So let's start with the question and answer session. So if you have any questions, please raise your hands, unmute when taking your name. Yes, Abhishek, you can ask your question.
Hi, Yash.
Hi, Abhishek.
Uh, I wanted to ask a question that what is GSoC like? Like what things you do to get selected for the open source or anything like that?
Oh, I'm really sorry I didn't explain it really well. The thing is that organizations apply. I mean, there are a lot of open source organization, and they don't get paid for anyone using their project. Do you pay for GCC, for using GCC, GNU compiler connection? You might be using GCC in your labs to compile C programs and C++ programs, but you are not paying for it, right? So how do these open source software make money? um i'll I'll just answer it myself. It's the huge companies, it's the tech giants who are backing these projects. They are continuously trying to do something for these projects so that the developers get their bills paid and they are felt important. And so Google Summer of Code is just an attempt by Google to do that. And for applying to Google Summer of Code, these organizations, which certainly depend on a lot of other organizations, these organizations apply to GSoC portal, which is right now. I mean, the application for organizations are open. You need to register an organization and then apply to GSoC. And then Google Summer of Code, there is Stephanie, the program manager, and she scrutinizes all the organization and selects a list of organizations that are prominent and that have good project ideas, what they have submitted, and then they publish it on the Google Summer of Code website. Now, for a student like you and me, we can select projects from those organizations and then select whatever projects that align with our my portfolio. For suppose I was a Django developer, right? I was, I worked a lot on Django project. Let's say I did not work on it, but let's say I worked on a lot of Django products, and I wanted to see a project which was aligning with my portfolio. So I'll go to the GSoC portal and just type Django or Python, and then find all the projects that are listed inside various organizations and go through each and every project and the requirements, and then come up with a proposal. Later on in the application phase, there's a proposal round. So you need to curate a proposal. What is a proposal? The project idea is given by the organization. So you need to showcase your approach. How will you approach the problem? It does not need to solve the problem. How would you approach it? And you need to, make the mentor realize that you are capable of achieving that. I mean, you are I mean, you have knowledge to do certain things in a certain way so that you can get the objectives of the project ideas sorted, right? I think it was, uh, a satisfactory explanation. Are you satisfied with
Yes,
that
yes,
answer?
yes. And one more,
Yeah.
like I am a FE. So what steps should I do if I want to participate in the GSoC, or what languages I have to do?
By FE, you mean front end engineer or first year?
First year.
Uh, okay, so first year, it's FY, I guess. So uh, in the first year, I don't think there's a roadmap for this. I cannot give you roadmaps, and I don't think they certainly work for everyone. If you are looking into it, for example, I did my research when I was locked down, and I was curious into games. I played a lot of PUBG, and I thought, why wouldn't I think about how PUBG is made? So it is made from Unreal Engine, and I got to know a lot about how Unreal Engine works. It was written in C++, and then I got to know about C++, and then it was a curiosity. It was born out of curiosity, not because I wanted to do GSOC. So be curious in whatever you do. There are a lot of, GSOC is not just about C++ development. It's a lot more. I mean, there's ML projects. There's Arduino, even for the electronics people here. I mean, there's a plethora of technologies out there which participates in GSoC, and just explore. That's what I would say. If you want to, optimize the first year time, you just need to explore everything as much as you can. That's what I think, and you can do anything you want as well. I can't give you roadmaps. Yeah, roadmaps don't work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rahul, you can ask your question.
Hey Yash,
Hi, Rahul.
basically I want to ask about how can we apply to these open source companies, right? So you said you worked with a certain open source company, and then that was in GSoC. That's why you got a chance to be in GSoC, right? So how to apply to that company, or how to find open source projects?
I'll show you right now. Wait a second. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
So what I did was just go to Summer of Code, Google, and then you will find past programs. Then you will go to 2020 program, and there was a lot of project, right? And here's Academy Software Foundation. I found it just while surfing the web, and I viewed the 2020 projects, and I viewed the the final work product of this guy, and I went to one of his PRs. Right, this is Open Timeline IO, and then I guess it is not showing up here, but I got to know somewhat about this Open Color IO as well, because in one of his PR he mentioned this project, and it was a part of Academy Software Foundation, and I found this project. This is open source project. You can just download it right now. You don't need to give any resume for that. And the steps I did to actually get my code contributed here is just I went to the issues. I went to one of the issues, and I just typed, okay, here's what I think, stating down what I think, how to tackle this problem, and would you like to assign me this issue? And I just commented it, and the maintainer of this project agreed, and then we worked on it, and then I created a PR. Let's say this one, this is my PR. So yeah, this fixed that, and yeah, it's there is no way you can actually have your selection into these programs. It's an open source program. Anyone can contribute to this project, and this is the power of open source software. I forgot to mention this part. You don't need any resume. For freshers, it is the most exciting way to get their hands dirty with actual software development, because you don't need to submit any resume to anyone. You don't need to do any interviews. You just need to go to the issue, discuss with everyone, and then code. That's that. That's so simple. And yet, a lot of people miss out on that. So I hope my answer was satisfactory. Do you want me to elaborate, Rahul?
No,
You want me to elaborate?
it was fine.
Yeah.
It's
Okay, Vajid, you can ask your question.
So, hi Yash, I have actually two questions. So, first is can you just give a sample of portfolio? Sorry, the report we need to give to the HR, like the company. For example, let's say you have said that we need to post the company the idea of the way we will be solving the problem. Like,
Yes.
do you have any type of template or like that something?
So you want to see how those proposals, you mean, right? These are called proposals, not any letter or anything like
Yeah.
that. These are called proposals in GSoC language. So yeah, let me show. And of course, it's not only just mine. I have actually linked this repository. It was GSoC proposal archive, and it was sorted by the year and 2021. These are the organization that took part in 2021, and in each organization, let's see for Casbin. So this is my proposal, and it's public. You can view it. I'll drop in the link when I'll be able to paste it somewhere, and I'll be handing it over to the team. You'll be getting it after the program. So this is my proposal. So I'll just download it and let you guys know how it looks. This is my final proposal that I submitted in the GSoC portal. Okay, right. Just a second. Yeah, so this is my actual proposal. So here's what it looks like. So the first page is about me and what I did. So as you can see here, I highlighted my contributions to ASFW. It's a color management tool for VFX and C++. And I told them whatever I did in my first year and in my first semester, I guess. And then you can see how I managed to, I'll be sending it because it's a 14-page long proposal, and you just need to describe yourself, what you're good at, and then you need to show what your development environment is, what is your ID and whatnot. So yeah, that is it.
Okay.
Although if you want
So
to
I have
see,
another question.
yeah,
So like
yeah.
no one is like a pure-hearted like you. Sorry.
No one is what?
Some are like evil like me. So the second question is that what are the chances of getting the base prize, and what are the conditions where the prizes are rejected? Like for example, I will not get the reward for completing the GSoC.
Yeah, I think you are asking if you are not able to complete these projects, if you are not able to do what you have mentioned in your proposal, then what will happen, right?
Yeah,
Will you
right.
be given the rewards or the stipend and whatever Google provides? So the answer to it is complex because it depends on project. So if you, let's say, I am a mentor and I will look at the students or the mentees' performance all while the GSoC is commenced, and I'll look at his performance and I'll see how well he has put up things and he or she has put up things and how well they have done their projects. And if 90% of the code or 90% of the projects are complete, I won't mind, because there are certain limitations and there might be, certain roadblocks. But if it is somewhat not morally, it was not, the delay was done intentionally, or it could have been done but you decided not to, then I guess I have all the rights to, declare you a defaulter of GSoC. And in 2021, I think 7 to 12 people were defaulters, so they were not able to pass the second evaluation. So there are evaluations in GSoC once you get selected into Google Summer of Code. The first evaluation was in mid July, I guess, in the starting of July or June, I guess. They checked on us if our project is going well or not, or are the mentors satisfied or not. So the key is that if the mentor thinks that you are all right, then there will be no complications. But if the mentor is not happy with you, then you are in trouble.
Okay. So you have said something like defaulters. I think they will be blocking us. So what if in the first year I did not contribute well? So can I apply in the second year, like in next year? Or maybe I will be debarred for every time, forever. Like
You are pretty much barred for the entire, um, uh, the entire session. You won't be able to apply to GSoC again, I guess. Yes, yeah, that is the case. You won't be able to apply to GSoC. I need to look upon it, but it's written in the rules. I guess if you want to look at it in that way, then it's, yeah, all right.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I suppose you explained too well. Now, Kashish, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, so hello, Yash, am I audible?
Yeah, Kashish, you are. Hi.
Hi, actually, I wanted to ask that do we need a team sort of something to participate or no?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Do we need a team or something to participate?
Um, no, it's an individual. I mean, you need to apply individually.
Okay,
But
I
but
just
I mean, two people can work on the same project. There might be cases where two people might work on same project, but you cannot team up. You cannot gang up against a lot of other applicants. Yeah,
okay, that much only. Thank you.
yeah.
Prasad, you can ask your question.
Hello, Yash.
Hi.
I want to ask that how you manage your college academic studies and GSoC both simultaneously. Can you please explain?
While during GSoC, it was summer vacation, so I guess there was no problem as such. But in August, I guess, um, my project ended on, I guess, 16th August or something like that. I mean, the coding period ended on 16 August. So I had to miss some of the classes. But yeah, it was summer vacation, so I had no problem in dealing with that. Yeah.
Okay, so there are some questions in the chat box.
So the chat box is working.
You can see, should I read out?
Just a second. Yeah, you need to read it out, I guess.
So, what are the documents or the formalities required for GSoC?
Documents, you need a valid. Okay, that was up until 2021. So rules for 2022 has changed, and you need to go through the rules before you apply. For my year, it was that I needed to submit the college ID, a valid college ID. I mean, it needed to be valid. I can't produce a identity which was being expired on 2020. So yeah, and there was one more thing that I am not. Yeah, a mark sheet. Yeah, I guess the mark sheet was also required. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'm missing that. I am not able to recall what all things. There were two things that we needed to submit. So it was either mark sheet or hostel allotment or something like that, just to make sure that you are a college student. But that restriction has been laid off in 2022. So yeah.
Okay, so these were all the questions. Thank you, Yash. It was a very informative session. This was exactly what most of us needed. And I know that everybody here found it useful too. Also, I would like to request you all to fill out the feedback form to avail your certificate. You will find the feedback form link in the chat box. Now, I would like to hand over the session to our chairperson, Ishika Purohit.
Wait, Wajid has another question. You can go ahead, Wajid, if you have a question.
Yeah, sorry for disturbing Yash and all of you. So I was asking, do we get any type of certification or any type of like a credential ID that we have contributed to this open source community?
Hi, Wajid. You don't need to show anything because it's all open source. They can see your commit. However, you do get a GSoC certificate, and it's really valuable. And yeah, you get to subscribe to a very internal mailing list of Google. I mean, of Google open source. And yeah, that's it. And you get to connect with a lot of people. So yeah, you are. And yeah, of course, you can prove that you have done GSoC just by linking your project. I can prove that I have done GSoC by just linking my project. I can show it as well, but I don't think it is necessary. Yeah, I think I can. Uh, just let me. Yeah, there you go. It's my name here, and there might be other Yash Pandays as well. So here's my ID. If you go to that link, then you can see that it is my profile, and of course you can follow me if you want to.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Okay, thank you so much, Wajid. Anyone else has a question before we head on to the ending? Okay, I guess we're good to go. So thank you so much, Yash. Good evening, everyone present here. I'm Ishika Purohit, the chairperson of Computer Engineering Students Association. On behalf of CESA VIT, I'd like to extend my gratitude to our honorable guest, Mr. Yash Pandey, to take out time from his busy schedule to grace this event. Thank you so much, Yash, for your informative session, which has definitely enlightened a lot of students here and what like guiding them towards GSoC and like to start their GSoC journey. Thank you to the participants for their active participation throughout the event. Don't forget to fill the feedback form to get your certificates. Thank you everyone once again for making our event a great success. And please stay tuned for further events which are going to be organized by CESA VIT. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Yash. Thank you,